So we've had the opportunity over the last handful of months to hear pieces of some testimonies from some people in our family, and we have the honor this morning of hearing another piece of story. So, I'd love to invite forward, and if you would all just give your honor and attention to Kathy, our sister Kathy.
Thank you. So this time of year, I do something I call the UPS dance. The UPS truck pulls out in front of the house. Do you do this? It is particularly bad this year because I got Amazon Prime, and I get free shipping. And my kids know I get Amazon Prime, and they use my account too. So the UPS truck pulls up in front, and you know maybe it's coming to your house. But it could be going to the neighbor's house. So I do this dance. I walk to the living room and I look. Is he coming to my house? Is that package arriving? Or then I go to the dining room and I look. Is he coming? So I do the little UPS dance until he comes. And yes, he does arrive at my door quite often this time of the year because packages are being delivered. And we know when Mr. UPS comes, he's bringing the good stuff, right? He's dropping off little packages of joy. And many of us kind of view God in this role too. He drops off the good stuff, right? He's in charge of it, and he is able to bring us joy. Well, today I want to tell you about a Christmas exactly 13 years ago when I didn't know whether I should accept the gift of joy that God was giving me. Exactly 13 years ago, just a couple weeks, it was the beginning of the month of December, and I had arrived home from the hospital with my youngest child, Merritt. Merritt doesn't come to church with us that often because of her condition, but when she was about 12 weeks old, she started having seizures. This landed us in the hospital for a week stay. Not exactly what you want to do during the busy month of December, when at home you have Paige, who was 7, JP, who was 5, and Graham, who was just barely 3. So after a big week at Children's Hospital, trying to discern what had happened, it was great to come home. And what was really special is my church family met me. That weekend was the annual Cornerstone Sunday School class White Elephant Exchange. Some of you may remember that class and the fun we had exchanging that. So 50 people greeted me, and I was lifted up. But after all that was done and the holidays were over, I was back to the reality of having to try to figure out how to deal with the gift of Merritt. We went on a whirlwind tour that year trying to discover what her diagnosis was. At about 7 months old, the doctors looked at us and said, "Let's hope something's wrong with her brain." And I said, "How in the world do you say that? My child wasn't developing, she wasn't eating well, she slept about 20 hours every day." And the doctor said, "Well, we're starting to suspect something may be wrong with her cells, and that's much more dangerous." Wow, I really wasn't prepared to hear that type of news. A little bit longer in that year, that first year of her life, we got the actual diagnosis. Again, sitting across from the doctor, he said, "She has a degenerative disease. Her brain has shrunk considerably this first year of her life. The best we can hope for is about 2 years." I didn't know how to accept God's gift right in that moment. This wasn't the type of thing you expect. Well, I turned, of course, to my church and my church family, and everyone lifted me up. We do that. We turn to our faith, and you get your strength in that. But my big thing was, how do I get my joy back? I had always been a very upbeat person, but you go through a year like that, and I know listening to your stories here that many of you have been through years that are filled with difficult decisions and traumatic times. But where does the joy come back? That was what I was interested in finding out. When were those deliveries going to start up again? Well, it hit me one day in the car. Driving in the car was often the only time I had quiet time with 4 young children at home, and I actually decided to get honest with God. And I said, in my head, praying, I said, "I don't want a handicapped child." Wow, you're really not supposed to turn God's gifts down, are you? But when I was finally real about what was so difficult, it became flooded. I became flooded in with this emotion. It's kind of like when I send my kids to camp. And the counselors, when a kid complains about having to clean the cabin, he says, "Do we have to clean the cabin?" And the counselor's response, they've been trained to say this, is, "You get to clean the cabin." Finally, once I admitted what I was really afraid of with God's gift, that I had to raise a special child, once that came over me, all of a sudden I was flooded back with, "You get to raise God's special child." I was like, wow. Once that emotion hit me, then the gift of joy came back into my life. I needed to learn to accept that my vision of joy was kind of puny and insignificant. Joy just doesn't come wrapped in packages of perfect children. Joy doesn't come wrapped in perfect lives. Joy is with us at all times. Well, it says this in the Bible in Galatians. We are given joy as a fruit of the Spirit. It was there all along. And when I finally accepted it and kind of grabbed it back out of the closet where it had been hiding, I was ready to accept and appreciate all the joy that Merritt gives. And a couple of things that she does do, which I never would have expected if I hadn't had this child. She's given me my life's work passion. I help people understand how food affects their health. She's given me peace. I have to sit down with her several times during the day and stop everything. Who gets to do that? I'm looking up. Oh, yes, there she is. I also get to understand what it means to be a caregiver. That's a very special role that many of us overlook, but to be given that gift to understand how to care. And most importantly, I ultimately get to understand how God's idea of joy is something so much bigger than mine. So before I even had Merritt, JP was 4 years old, Graham was 2 years old. I was watching them play. I was very tired. I was sitting in a chair. All of a sudden, I was overwhelmed with, if I had a fourth child, that child was in some way going to be special. Well, it's kind of important not to go around telling people you've had visions, that maybe God spoke to you, but I was just overwhelmed with the fact that if this child came into my life, something was going to be special about her. So I actually turned to one friend, and I told one friend about my vision, and that friend was Debbie Norris. Some of you may remember Debbie. She was the wife of our former pastor, Bob Norris. And she took it in. You know, she's a pastor's wife. She's used to that kind of thing. We didn't talk about it again until the following year when Merritt was born. But before that time, we'd had an interaction the Christmas before Merritt was born. Debbie had a great big pin on, and it said, "Joy." And I said, "Debbie, I love your pin." She goes, "It's my middle name. It's always been a feel-good middle name." I said, "If I have this fourth child and she's a girl, I'm giving her the middle name of Joy." So today I wanted to just share a little bit. Merritt Joy cannot come to church just because of her condition. So I think it's important that she gets to visit you in this way today through me. And I'd like to just leave you with one little piece of my journey with you. Don't wait for the joy to arrive this Christmas. You already have it. Just go unwrap it.
Kathy, thank you for sharing that. Gosh, what an honor it is to be a part of this family. You know, I don't know. It's kind of a unique place we have here, and there's so many just gifts and talents and stories that get lifted up, you know, from time to time. And in these moments, I don't know, I just feel the weight of that and just feel the joy that comes with it. So thank you so much.